Welcome to In Your Defense, Galveston and Beyond.
Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of Defense on the Coast with Mark Diaz, a passionate criminal defense attorney with over 25 years of experience defending the rights of Texans. I'm your host, Mike Leon. And in today's episode, we're going to be digging in with Mark about probation violations and revocations. Mark's going to break down what they mean, what triggers them, and how fast things can go south if you don't act quickly. Mark, good to see you as always. Let's get into this. I would love for you at a high level, kind of explain for people out there, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that think probation means their case is over. But that's not technically true, is it?
Mike, thanks for having me back. And people that think probation means their case is over are wrong. Their court appearances are over, but the case is definitely not over, because until they meet the requirements of their probation and whatever terms are put on the probation, they still face the possibility of county jail or prison, depending upon if it's a misdemeanor or a felony.
So I want you to expand on that a little bit more, because I'm sure you can explain some of the common ways you've seen people end up violating probation, even when they're trying to be compliant, Mark. How have you seen that in your experience?
So putting aside new law violations, meaning committing a new crime, a big one that we've always battled with, and I tell all my clients not to do this, is, part of your probation is going to involve money. Whether it's paying a fine, whether it's paying court costs, it's going to involve money. Even if it's paying restitution to a victim, it's going to involve money. And that money is going to be a monthly commitment. And so we have had cases many times where someone doesn't show up to their probation visit because they don't have the money that they owe. And they think, well, I'm going to get in trouble anyway, so I'm just not going to show up. Failing to show up to your appointments is a reason to get violated. And failing to pay money is not a reason to get violated. We don't have debtors' prisons here in Texas. So, yes, they're going to press you for the money, and yes, they want their money, and in the end, you're going to pay it because they'll make your life miserable. But you should never skip a probation appointment simply because you didn't do something. It's better to show up and explain yourself why you didn't. I lost my job. I got fired 2 weeks ago. They're going to work with you. But the minute you don't show up, the court considers you an absconder and can violate you for just that.
Mark, a second ago, you said I want to put aside new criminal offenses, but I would love to learn a little bit more about how the Texas courts handle the technical violations of your probation versus new criminal offenses and charges while you're on probation. Can you kind of explain that?
Sure. So technical violations we can usually deal with and keep you on your probation. So let's say, for instance, you've fallen behind on your community supervision. As soon as you hire me and tell me that, I'm going to tell you, go start doing your community supervision. Before we hit the next court date, I want you to have done X number of hours. If it's money, same thing. Let's start working on your money, start making your payments. Whatever the technical violation is, we can try to cure that and then take away the motivation for wanting to terminate your probation or defer to adjudication, whichever it is. But a new law violation is going to get tricky. Let's say you're on a felony probation for whatever offense, and then you pick up a small misdemeanor. A lot of times, depending upon your original charge and how the history of your case went, we can still keep you on your felony probation. But if it's another serious offense, it's probably going to result in a revocation of your probation.
Mark, when a probation officer, he or she reports the violation, how fast does the court move in terms of issuing a warrant or even starting those revocation proceedings?
So again, now we're back into felony versus misdemeanor. The felony courts, if they get a violation report, they sign it really quickly, like the day they get it. Misdemeanors, not as fast, but they still get signed. The difference that we have a lot of times is we'll have a client on probation who gets arrested for a new law violation doesn't tell me, and then they bond out on the new law violation, and then the judge signs the warrant for the revocation of the probation and they go back in jail. So if I'm contacted early enough, what I try to tell them to do is, and again, it depends on which court, misdemeanor versus felony, but I would tell them, hold on, let me go to the other court and see what they want to do about a violation before you bond out. So you don't bond out, go back in, and then have to bond out again. If you hire me soon enough, I can get to those courts, both of them, and work something out where we can get you back out on one bond.
Yeah. Mark, can you kind of also explain what the revocation hearing looks like?
So sure, it's when you took the probation, you gave up your right to a jury trial. So if you go all the way to a hearing, it's pretty much as simple as the state calls your probation officer, who gets up there and talks about your violations. The rules of evidence don't really apply. The standard is not beyond a reasonable doubt anymore because you pled. And so if the judge finds that you violated any of your conditions, he or she can send you to prison or county jail, depending on what level offense we're talking about.
Yeah. And how much discretion does the judge have in that instance on deciding whether or not to revoke it or give someone another chance?
Complete discretion. So anything from do absolutely nothing to extend your probation to give you more time to sit in jail and think about it. So if you're talking about a felony case, the judge has up to 180 days as a condition of your probation that they can put on you in jail. So they could give you what we call jail therapy. Rather than send you to prison, they could extend your probation. They could do nothing. I had a case one time where my client had been on 10 years deferred adjudication, and approximately 6 months prior to her 10th year, when she would have terminated, she tested positive for marijuana. And they wanted to send her to prison, so we actually did the hearing. And I had her do some things, take a marijuana class, submit some clean urinalysis prior to the hearing. And what I asked the judge to do was terminate her rather than send her to prison or anything else. And not only did the judge agree with me, he told the state, don't ever waste my time like this again.
So you know what, but Mark, that funnels into a follow-up beautifully, because what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about your profession, what their lawyer can or can't do once a violation has been filed?
That's the biggest issue, is everyone that comes to us on a violation expects that we can do something to make sure they don't get violated and go to jail. And, not only is it going to depend on the court you're in, the offense that you were put on probation for, the history of your case. And when I say the history of your case, I mean, it's different. It can be different if let's say you went to trial and the jury gave you probation, or let's say that because of some very contentious pretrial litigation, you got a probation offer. The courts are going to remember, the judge is going to remember why they put you on probation in the first place. And if it was one of those situations where the judge was reluctant to do it, and now you've come back as problematic, the odds are higher that you're going to go to prison. We recently had a case where we had to have a full hearing, and the judge took a chance on our client and did not revoke him. And it was a felony. He was looking at prison time. And he got back out. And then about a month ago, he got arrested, another violation filed, and called our office. And I said, I'm not taking it. There's nothing. After the first hearing, we did so much work, and the judge very reluctantly reinstated him on his probation. There's no way he's getting reinstated again. And when people hire you, that's what they want, right? they don't want to go to prison. And I told them that I can't help you this time.
Yeah. Mark, you've handled so many cases, hundreds of cases. What kind of, take our audience a little bit inside, what kind of preparation, courtroom strategy do you use that you see has tend to make the biggest difference in these cases?
There's no way that type of question, it's really almost impossible to answer because no two cases are the same, right? No two complaining witnesses or victims are the same. The way that testimony comes off in front of the jury is unpredictable. And, recently I was in a trial, and I mean 2 weeks ago, and the complaining witness took the stand and testified to something completely different than she had told the police on scene, and completely different to what she had told the prosecutor in trial preparation. And so none of us anticipated that, including the prosecution. And so we were in trial on a felony. And because of what happened with the testimony of the first two witnesses, and it was the complaining witness and her brother, after that day, and my client was in custody this whole time. After that day, the state came to me and said, "Hey, we'll give your guy time served on a misdemeanor if he'll take it." And he took it. But none of us, and including the prosecution, to be fair, saw that coming. I knew I was going to have some issues. I had a lot to work with at trial, but I had no idea that the story was going to completely change. And when I say completely change, I mean timelines, everything changed. And none of us anticipated that. So it's hard for me to say one strategy because my strategy is going to flip depending upon the situation that I'm in.
Yeah. Well, Mark, you just shared that story. You gave the story about the client that you couldn't take their case again. I would love for you to share a story about a time you were able to help a client avoid revocation altogether and get their life back on track. Do you have any stories that you can share with our audience?
I told you about the guy that we were successful, but he didn't make it. We've had clients all the time. And again, I live in Galveston, so I live in a small community. And, there are times, for instance, I was at a restaurant once, and this girl comes up to me and says, "You're Mark Diaz, right?" And I said, "Maybe." And she said, "No, you're him." And she said, "I just want to tell you thank you." And I'm like, "What did I do?" And she says, "Well, I guess you don't remember, but X number of years ago, you got me out of a jam when I was on deferred." And she's like, "I just want to let you know I turned my life around." That's one. I have another one. My wife was at the store, and a previous client of mine said to my wife, she said, "You're Mark Diaz's wife, aren't you?" And my wife was like, "Yeah," kind of scary. And the girl says, "I just want to tell you how great your husband and his team are because, they helped me turn my life around." And they ended up hugging, and it was a great deal. But then my wife was like, "How do you know that I was his wife?" And she said, "Oh, because I look at his Facebook all the time."
It's great stuff, Mark. Mark, thank you so much for the time and insights on all of this. We truly appreciate it, as always.
Thank you for having me back, Mike.
And thank you to everybody out there listening to this episode of Defense on the Coast with Texas criminal defense attorney Mark Diaz. Look, if you want to be one of those people that hugs Mark's wife, or you want to tell him how he's helped your life, or you even want to connect with Mark and the team, do me a favor, visit texascriminaljustice.com today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a review and comment, or share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. As always, I'm Mike Leon. We'll see everybody next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.